Did you know the very first death in the Friday the 13th franchise doesn't actually belong to Jason at all? It belongs to his vengeful mother, Pamela Voorhees. And that single death is what sets everything in motion, igniting the legend that would span decades of horror cinema. Before Jason became the mask-wearing harbinger of death, before Crystal Lake ran red with counselor, there was Pamela Voorhees, a mother whose love had curdled into something monstrous and unrecognizable. Her boy had died in these cursed waters back in 1957, drowning while negligent camp counselors chased their pleasure, instead of protecting the vulnerable children they were supposed to watch. And in that moment, something snapped. Pamela didn't just lose a son, she created a nightmare. The reopening of Camp Crystal Lake, decades later, ignites the powder keg of Pamela's accumulated rage. She doesn't simply oppose the camp's resurrection, she declares war against it, transforming herself into an angel of vengeance, whose mission is painted in arterial spray across every cabin wall. One by one, the young counselors fall to Pamela's wrath. Each kill feeds her hunger for justice. Each scream validates her righteous fury. She moves through the camp like death personified, her ordinary appearance masking the predatory killer she's become. No one suspects the middle-aged woman helping to prepare the camp is actually orchestrating their systematic extermination. The final confrontation erupts on the shores of Crystal Lake itself, where the last survivor, Alice Hardy, crawls through the mud like a wounded animal, her body battered and broken by the night's terrors. She believes salvation lies just ahead, that sunrise will be from this waking nightmare. But Pamela emerges from the tree line like a specter, materialized from Alice's worst fears. The woman's eyes burn with fanatical intensity as she raises the machete that has already claimed so many lives tonight. This blade has become an extension of her maternal fury, a steel fang dripping with the blood of those who failed her precious Jason. "You let him die," Pamela screams, her voice cracking with decades of suppressed anguish. "He was just a child, a sweet, innocent child, and you let him drown while you made love." The accusation hangs in the air like a curse as the two women circle each other in the moonlight. Alice, pushed beyond exhaustion into pure survival mode, spots the glint of salvation in the mud. Another machete, its blade reflecting the pale light like a promise of deliverance. Their struggle becomes primal, animalistic. Pamela swings her weapon with the strength of righteous indignation, each blow aimed at Alice's heart with surgical precision. But desperation gives Alice superhuman reflexes, allowing her strikes that would have cleaved her skull in half. Then Alice's fingers close around the weapon and everything changes in a single explosive moment. The machete rises in a perfect arc, its trajectory guided by the raw mathematics of survival. Pamela sees her death approaching, and for the first time tonight, her eyes widen with genuine terror. The blade connects with her neck in a blow that reverberates through both their souls. Steel meets flesh, bone, and cartilage in a symphony of destruction that severs Pamela's head from her body with surgical cleanliness. The decapitation is instantaneous, absolute. One moment she's screaming for vengeance, Jason Voorhees erupts from the black water like vengeance incarnate. His small hands, the hands of the child he died as, clamping onto Alice's shoulders with strength that defies nature. His face is a horror of aquatic decay, flesh rotted and peeling from years beneath the surface. But his eyes burn with intelligence, with purpose, with a rage that death could not extinguish. The boy drags Alice beneath the surface as her screams echo across Crystal Lake, pulling her into the same dark waters that claimed him so many years ago. Whether this moment is real or merely Alice's traumatized psyche manifesting her ultimate fear, when Alice awakens in a sterile hospital room, her tale of the boy in the lake is dismissed as hallucination. But legends require believers, and Jason Voorhees has just claimed his first convert to the gospel of eternal revenge. Jason Voorhees has grown from a drowned child into something far more terrifying, a hulking guardian of Crystal Lake's cursed shores, eliminating anyone foolish enough to trespass on his liquid kingdom. The boy who died has become death itself, stalking through the woods with murderous intent burning in his damaged mind. Alice Hardy's survival was temporary at best. Jason finds her months later, tracking her to her new apartment with the persistence of a bloodhound following a scent trail. Her death is swift, brutal, and sends a clear message. No one who witnesses his existence will be allowed to live. A fresh group of camp counselors arrives near Crystal Lake, their laughter and youthful energy a mockery of the silence that should honor the dead. They set up their campsite with carefree abandon, never suspecting that death himself watches from the shadows, cataloging their faces and planning their individual destructions. Jenny Field begins to sense the wrongness that permeates these woods. She notices how the local birds fall silent when the sun sets, how the very air seems to thicken with a malevolent presence. One by one, her friends vanish into the darkness, their screams cutting through the night before being silenced forever. Jason methodically reduces their numbers with the efficiency of an experienced butcher, each kill more creative than the last. He transforms their peaceful campsite into an abattoir, decorating the trees with hanging corpses that sway gently in the evening breeze like macabre wind chimes. Jenny's flight through the forest becomes a descent into her own personal hell. Branches tear at her clothing and skin as she crashes through underbrush that seems designed to trap and slow her escape. Behind her, she can hear Jason's steady pursuit, not running, never running, but walking with the inexorable patience of fate itself. The abandoned shack she discovers deep in the woods serves as Jason's shrine to his murdered mother. Inside this temple of madness, Pamela Voorhees' severed head rests on a makeshift altar, her mummified features still twisted in the rage that defined her final moments. Candles flicker around the gruesome relic, casting dancing shadows that make the dead eyes seem alive with malevolent intelligence. Faced with this evidence of Jason's psychological damage, Jenny makes a desperate gamble with death itself. She pulls on Pamela's rotting sweater, the fabric still stained with blood and decay, and begins speaking in what she hopes sounds like a mother's voice. "Jason, my special boy," she whispers, her voice trembling with terror and forced tenderness. "Come to mommy. Come to your mother." For a precious moment, the deception works. Jason appears in the doorway, his massive frame filling the entrance like an eclipse, blotting out the sun. But without his iconic hockey mask, his true face is revealed, a landscape of scars, deformity, and rage that makes him appear more monster than man. Something in Jenny's performance triggers a memory deep in Jason's damaged psyche. He sees not an imposter wearing his mother's clothes, but perhaps a glimpse of the love he lost so many years ago. His advance slows, his head tilts with canine confusion as conflicting impulses war within his broken mind. But the illusion shatters when Paul arrives, his appearance destroying the delicate psychology Jenny has constructed. Jason's rage explodes like a dam bursting, his massive hands and his throat with crushing intent. Paul launches himself at Jason with desperate heroism, landing blow after blow that would fell any normal man. But Jason absorbs the punishment like a mountain enduring a thunderstorm, his supernatural resilience making him nearly immune to conventional violence. Still, the sustained assault eventually takes its toll. Jason staggers under Paul's relentless attack, blood streaming from multiple wounds as he crashes backward into a pile of decaying wood and rusted metal. The sharp edges of broken furniture tear through his flesh as he falls, adding new scars to his collection of old ones. For a moment, Jason lies motionless among debris, his massive chest rising and falling with labored breathing. Blood pools beneath his head, and for the first time since his resurrection, he appears genuinely vulnerable. Jenny and Paul flee into the night, believing they've accomplished the impossible. They've defeated Jason Voorhees. They return to their cabin with hearts pounding, adrenaline making them shake as they try to process their survival. But their relief proves premature. When sounds at the door suggest another threat, they prepare to defend themselves once more, only to discover their loyal dog somehow survived the night's carnage. Their moment of joy lasts exactly as long as it takes Jason to smash through their window like an avalanche of flesh and fury. Now unmasked, his true face revealed in all its horrible glory, Jason grabs Jenny with hands that could crush stone, promising a death that will be neither quick nor merciful. The ambulance crew that eventually responds finds Jenny catatonic with trauma, calling out desperately for Paul, who has disappeared without a trace. Jason's body is gone from the shack. This marks the transformation that will define Jason for generations of horror, the claiming of his iconic hockey mask from an unlikely source, wounded and enraged from his previous encounter. Jason has taken refuge in the woods surrounding Higgins Haven, where a new group of young people has arrived for what they believe will be a peaceful weekend retreat. Among them is Shelley Finkelstein, a prankster whose love of practical jokes will inadvertently provide Jason with his most recognizable feature. Shelley's hockey mask was meant to frighten friends with harmless scares, but fate has other plans for this piece of sporting equipment. When Jason kills Shelley, he claims more than another victim. He discovers the mask that will become his eternal face, the blank white visage that will haunt nightmares for decades to come. The hockey mask transforms Jason from a deformed killer into an icon of terror, giving him an identity that transcends his physical form. Chris Higgins carries scars that make this encounter deeply personal. Years ago, a deformed stranger attacked her in these very woods, leaving psychological wounds that never properly healed. As her friends begin disappearing one by one, Chris realizes with growing horror that her childhood nightmare has returned to finish what it started. The woods around Higgins Haven become a hunting ground where Jason demonstrates his evolved killing techniques. Each murder is more elaborate than the last, showing that the killer has learned from experience and grown more creative in his methods of inflicting death. Chris's friends die in increasingly brutal fashion, some hanging from trees like human ornaments, others discovered in positions that suggest prolonged torture before their final moments. Jason is no longer simply killing. He's creating art from death, using human bodies as his canvas and pain as his paint. The final confrontation transforms the barn at Higgins Haven into a coliseum where only one will emerge alive. Chris finds herself trapped inside with Jason, the building's wooden walls becoming prison bars that prevent her escape, while allowing the killer to hunt her at his leisure. Jason's pursuit through the barn is methodical, terrifying. His massive form smashes through obstacles like they're constructed from matchsticks, each thunderous impact shaking the entire structure. The hockey mask reflects the dim light filtering through cracks in the wall, making him appear supernatural, inhuman. Chris climbs to the barn's loft, gaining the high ground in a battle where every advantage matters. From above, she spots her salvation, an axe embedded in a wooden support beam, its blade sharp enough to split skulls and end nightmares. With destiny, as Chris wrenches it free. This isn't just farm equipment, it's become an instrument of justice, a tool that will either save her life or witness her destruction. Jason follows her into the loft. With mechanical persistence, his breathing labored behind the hockey mask that has become his new face. As his head appears over the edge of the platform, Chris brings the axe down with all the strength that desperation can provide. The blade connects with Jason's skull in an explosion of bone and brain matter that echoes through the barn like gunfire. The axe drives deep into his cranium, penetrating the frontal lobe where his violent impulses are born and nurtured. Jason's entire body convulses as the weapon splits his head open, blood immediately beginning to cascade from beneath his mask in dark rivulets that paint the hockey mask crimson. His hands reach up reflexively toward the axe handle protruding from his skull like some grotesque crown. The damage is catastrophic, irreversible. Jason's nervous system begins shutting down as the axe destroys crucial brain tissue, severing the neural pathways that control basic motor functions. He staggers backward, his massive frame suddenly unsteady as consciousness flickers and dies. When Jason finally collapses, the impact drives the axe even deeper into his skull. His body hits the barn floor with earth-shaking force that makes the entire building groan. The hockey mask, now cracked and stained with blood, cannot hide the devastation that lies beneath. Chris stands over Jason's motionless form, her chest heaving with exhaustion and terror. The axe still protrudes from his head like a steel headstone marking his grave. For a moment, it appears that the Crystal Lake Killer has finally met his match, but Chris's victory celebration proves premature. As she tries to escape across Crystal Lake in a canoe, her exhaustion makes her vulnerable to one final supernatural assault. The corpse of Pamela Voorhees, or perhaps a hallucination born from trauma, bursts from the water to drag Chris into the depths. When rescue arrives, Chris is found in a state of complete psychological collapse, her mind shattered by horrors that transcend human comprehension. Jason's body lies in the barn with the axe still embedded in his skull. but experienced horror fans know that death is rarely permanent for the Crystal Lake killer. Jason awakens on a morgue table, like Lazarus rising from death. But there is no miracle here, only malevolence returning to claim what was stolen from it. The morgue staff dies quickly and brutally, their clinical environment transformed into a charnel house as Jason reclaims his freedom through violence. His return to Crystal Lake marks the beginning of his most savage killing spree yet. The teenagers staying at the vacation house next to the Jarvis family home have no idea they're about to become part of horror history. Their weekend retreat, destined to become a bloodbath that will traumatize survivors for generations. Young Tommy Jarvis represents something unique in Jason's world, a child whose fascination with special effects and horror makeup has given him insights into that adults cannot grasp. While others see Jason as an unstoppable force of nature, Tommy recognizes the damaged child still trapped inside the monster. Jason's rampage through the house is systematic, methodical. Each kill demonstrates his evolution as a predator, showing techniques perfected through years of practice. Bodies accumulate in positions that suggest not just murder but deliberate arrangement. Jason is creating tableau of death, artistic statements written in blood and bone. When Jason corners Trish Jarvis downstairs, ready to add another victim to his growing collection, Tommy implements a desperate plan born from psychological insight and absolute terror. Using his makeup skills, he transforms himself into a mirror image of Jason as he appeared in childhood, the innocent boy who drowned in Crystal Lake decades ago. The effect on Jason is immediate and profound. For the first time in the franchise, the unstoppable killer hesitates, his primitive mind recognizing something impossible, yet familiar. The sight of his own childhood innocence reflected in Tommy's face creates a crack in his psychological armor. Trish seizes this moment of vulnerability, grabbing a machete and driving it toward Jason with desperate strength. The blade connects with devastating force. Trish embeds the machete in Jason's skull with surgical precision. The weapon penetrates his cranium at an angle that suggests massive brain damage, causing Jason to drop to his knees like a felled tree. Blood begins pooling beneath his head as the machete protrudes from his skull like a steel memorial. But this is where the scene transcends typical horror violence and ventures into psychological territory that's far more disturbing. Tommy Jarvis, the innocent child, undergoes a transformation that's as terrifying as anything Jason has ever done. The boy's face contorts with rage that seems summoned from hell itself as he grabs the machete and begins his frenzied assault on Jason's already wounded head. Each blow is accompanied by screams that sound torn from the depths of human darkness, the sound of innocence being murdered by necessity. Tommy's assault becomes mechanical, relentless. The machete rises and falls with the rhythm of a metronome, each impact driving deeper into Jason's skull, splitting bone and brain matter with the wet sounds of absolute destruction. The boy's small hands become slick with gore as he reduces Jason's head to hamburger meat. What makes this sequence truly horrifying is Tommy's complete loss of humanity. He doesn't stop when Jason falls motionless. He continues pulverizing the corpse with increasing savagery, his young face twisted into a mask of fury that mirrors the monster he's destroying. The aftermath reveals Jason's head completely obliterated, the iconic hockey mask split into fragments that scatter across the floor like pieces of a shattered mirror. Brain matter and bone fragments paint the walls in abstract patterns, evidence of the most thorough destruction the killer has ever endured. Trish physically restrains her brother, pulling him away from the mutilated corpse as he continues swinging at empty air. But the damage has been done. Tommy's vacant stare and the way his hand lingers near sharp objects suggest that Jason's evil has found a new host. In the hospital scene that follows, Tommy appears superficially normal, but his dead eyes carry the weight of the violence he's both witnessed and inflicted. The cycle of evil has claimed another victim, and the real horror is just beginning. Jason Voorhees remains genuinely dead, his obliterated corpse finally at peace in whatever passes for a grave in this cursed corner of New Jersey. But his legend has taken on a life of its own, inspiring copycat killers who lack the original's supernatural resilience, but match his creativity for violence. Tommy Jarvis, now a young man, carries the psychological scars of his childhood encounter with Jason like shrapnel in his soul. The psychiatric hospital where he resides echoes with his screams each night as nightmares replay the moment when he destroyed Jason's head with mechanical brutality. His therapy sessions become exercises in futility as doctors try to treat trauma that transcends normal human experience. Tommy's descriptions of his encounter with Jason sound like the ravings of a madman, making it impossible for professionals to separate truth from delusion. When Tommy escapes the hospital and moves to a halfway house near Crystal Lake, his arrival coincides with a new series of murders that bear Jason's distinctive signatures. But the real Jason lies dead in his grave. So who is wearing the hockey mask and continuing his legacy of violence? The truth is both tragic and terrifying. Roy Burns, a paramedic whose son Joey was murdered at Tommy's psychiatric hospital, has assumed Jason's identity to continue the cycle of violence. Roy's grief has metastasized into something malignant, driving him to become the very monster that inspired his transformation. Roy's kills surpass even Jason's creativity, his medical training allowing him to inflict maximum pain while keeping his victims conscious for as long as possible. He doesn't just murder, he performs surgical procedures without anesthesia, using his knowledge of human anatomy to create suffering that transcends the merely physical. The final confrontation in the barn becomes a desperate battle for survival as Roy, consumed by grief and madness, tries to complete his twisted vision of justice. His paramedic training makes him uniquely dangerous. He knows exactly how much damage the human body can absorb before shutting down. After surviving a chainsaw attack that would have killed any normal person, Roy spots Tommy positioned behind him and sees his chance for ultimate revenge. But Tommy's trauma-induced paralysis makes him freeze at the crucial moment. His mind, still believing he's facing the real Jason Voorhees, Roy capitalizes on Tommy's hesitation, slashing his chest with a machete that opens a wound from collarbone. Blood cascades down Tommy's torso as he staggers backward. But desperation gives him strength to fight back, stabbing Roy in the leg and creating an opening to escape. The chase through the barn becomes a three-dimensional battle as Roy pursues his victims through multiple levels of the structure. When he corners young Reggie hiding behind a hay bale, maternal instinct drives Pam to shield the boy with her own body. In the chaotic struggle that follows, Reggie manages to shove Roy through the barn window, sending the killer plummeting toward the ground below. For a moment, victory seems possible, but Roy's determination proves stronger than gravity. The imposter manages to grab the window ledge, his fingers digging into the weathered wood with desperate strength. In a final act of malice, he grabs Reggie's, trying to drag the innocent boy into the abyss with him. Tommy appears like an avenging angel, wielding Roy's own machete with surgical precision. The blade descends in a perfect arc, severing Roy's wrist in a spray of arterial blood that paints the barn's exterior wall. Roy's severed hand remains clamped around Reggie's ankle as the rest of his body plummets into darkness. Roy Burns crashes onto the sharp tines of a harrow, the agricultural implement impaling him through chest and abdomen in multiple places. Each metal spike pierces a vital organ, creating wounds that would be fatal individually but combine to ensure his destruction as blood fountains from his mouth as Roy's body convulses in final agony, the metal tines preventing any possibility of survival. His eyes roll back, showing only whites, as death finally claims the grief-stricken paramedic who tried to become Jason Voorhees. Tommy Jarvis stands over Jason's grave like a man possessed, gasoline soaking his madness burning in his eyes. The storm raging overhead seems summoned by supernatural forces, its lightning splitting the darkness like cracks in reality itself. Years of therapy and medication have failed to quiet the voices in Tommy's head, the whispered accusations that he didn't finish the job, that Jason's evil still pollutes the world like radiation from a spiritual Chernobyl. Tonight, Tommy intends to end his torment by incinerating Jason's corpse and scattering the ashes to the four winds. But as Tommy drives the metal fence post into Jason's rotted remains, his sanity finally shatters completely. The act of violating the grave triggers a psychotic break that transforms Tommy from traumatized survivor into something potentially more dangerous than the monster he's trying to destroy. When the lightning strikes It carries more than mere electricity. It channels the raw power of resurrection itself, the fundamental force that separates life from death. The bolt illuminates the graveyard in supernatural light that reveals the impossible. Jason Voorhees, rising from his coffin like a demon emerging from the depths of hell. This isn't simple resurrection, it's a name, it's evolution, transformation, the creation of something far more powerful than the original killer ever was. Jason's flesh regenerates with wet organic sounds, as his decomposed features reform into something more terrible than they were in life. His strength multiplies beyond human comprehension as the lightning rewrites his cellular structure at the molecular level. The Jason that rises from this grave is no longer merely a killer. He's become a force of nature, an avatar of vengeance that transcends the merely physical. Tommy's companion Alan tries desperately to help as this enhanced Jason demonstrates his new capabilities with explosive violence. Jason moves with impossible speed, his fist punching through Alan's chest with the force of a cannonball fired at point range. Jason's hand emerges from Alan's back, clutching the man's still beating heart, arterial blood spraying in rhythmic pulses as the victim stares down in shock at the fist-sized cavity where his chest used to be. With casual brutality that demonstrates his enhanced strength, Jason tosses Alan's corpse back into the open grave. This new Jason begins his return to Crystal Lake, leaving a trail of bodies that defies belief. Kills ascend to new heights of creative brutality as his enhanced abilities allow him to perform feats that bend the laws of physics, bending steel with his bare hands, punching through solid concrete, hurling grown adults across rooms like broken dolls. When this supernatural Jason reaches the summer camp at Forest Green, his massacre becomes legendary even by his standards. The enhanced killer moves through the counselors like a scythe through wheat, each death more spectacular than the last. The final confrontation on Crystal Lake becomes an epic battle between human determination and supernatural evil. Tommy and Megan Garris lure Jason onto the dark waters using chains heavy enough to anchor a ship, planning to drag him back to the depths where his legend began. Their boat becomes a floating battlefield as Tom sets it ablaze with gasoline, creating an inferno that lights up the night sky like a beacon visible for miles. The flames reflect off Jason's hockey mask as he advances through the fire, his enhanced physiology making him immune to heat that would incinerate any normal creature. During their desperate struggle, the boat disintegrates under the stress of combat, and Tommy finds himself dragged underwater with Jason as the heavy chains threaten to pull both men to the lake's bottom. The same dark waters that created Jason's legend now threaten to claim his destroyer. Megan's desperate dive into the burning lake saves Tommy's life, but Jason grabs her with hands strong enough to crush concrete, trying to drag her into the abyss alongside him. In a move born from pure desperation, she manages to activate the boat's propeller, the spinning blades tearing into Jason's enhanced flesh with industrial violence. The propeller creates massive wounds that would kill any living creature, but Jason's supernatural nature means the injuries only ensure that when he sinks, the damage will keep him down, at least temporarily. The chains wrap around his massive form like metallic serpents, dragging him inexorably toward the lake's deepest point. Jason's descent into Crystal Lake's depths becomes both defeat and homecoming. These cursed waters that spawned his legend welcome him back like a mother embracing her prodigal son. But the chains ensure he cannot simply swim to freedom as he might have before. As the lake's surface returns to deceptive calm, Tommy and Megan know they've won a battle, not the war. Jason lies chained at the bottom of Crystal Lake, but he's also exactly where he belongs, in the liquid heart of his kingdom, biding his time until someone inevitably disturbs his watery rest. Which of Jason's deaths haunted your nightmares the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos.